The Reykjanes Peninsula volcano erupts for the 7th time in a year, but experts say volcanic activity has reached its peak.
This is probably the only meal Yasmin will be cooking for her family all day. She lives in a tent with her husband and 4 daughters in a camp in central Gaza. They have been displaced 5 times already.
شهور بتنا بدون أكل أو بدون يعني فطور ممكن طقة واحدة نعملها إلي ولكل أسرتي يعني طقة واحدة اللي نعملها كل شيء يعني غلي يعني ما بنقدر نجيب حاجة كل شيء غالي يعني أكيد إشي أكيد إني أنام بدون عشاء أنا وأسرتي.
These days, a bag of bread costs over $13 and meat has all but vanished from supermarket shelves. The UN has warned of a stark increase in the number of households experiencing severe hunger in central and southern Gaza. This appears to be linked to the robbery of nearly 100 aid trucks last weekend, which Israel blames on Hamas.
صراحة يعني أنا مش شاين على نفسي أحكي إيش المعاناة اللي إحنا عايشين فيها. يعني أنا نفسي خجلان إني أحكيها قدام العالم ومليون مليار مسلم بتفرج علينا وإحنا في الحرب والمعاناة والناس في المعاناة. العروض انتهكت والأطفال ما راحوش على مدارسهم والمعاناة الشديدة. طبعا إيش بدي أقول لك يعني واحد عنده 25 نفر ممكن ما يقدرش يوفر لهم كيس طحين.
On Thursday, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister, accusing them of using, quote, starvation as a method of warfare. Israel adamantly denies all charges.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has blamed the aggressive actions of NATO countries for Moscow testing a new intermediate-range missile in a strike on Ukraine. Putin said Russia was conducting combat tests of the new Oreshnik missile system after Ukrainian strikes earlier this week using US and British weaponry.
Объекты для поражения в ходе дальнейших испытаний наших новейших ракетных комплексов будут определяться нами, исходя из угроз безопасности Российской Федерации. Мы считаем себя вправе применять наше оружие против военных объектов тех стран, которые позволяют применять свое оружие против наших объектов.
In his nightly video address, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky slammed Russia's use of the Oreshnik, saying Putin was using Ukraine as a training ground.
Сьогодні ж наш божевільний сусід вкотре показав, який він насправді, як він зневажає і гідність, і свободу, і взагалі життя людей. І як він боїться настільки, що застосовує вже нові ракети. І шукає по світу, де б ще знайти зброю. То в Ірані, то в Північній Кореї.
Earlier this week, US President Joe Biden gave Ukraine authorization to use US-supplied longer-range missiles to strike military targets deeper inside Russia. According to the Kremlin, Ukraine fired several ATACMS into Russia on Tuesday. And a day after that, Ukraine used up to 12 British French-made Storm Shadow missiles for strikes into Russia's Kursk region. US officials have said the change in the Biden administration policy was a response to Russia using thousands of troops from North Korea to support Moscow's forces in the conflict.
Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential elections has left many across the world unsure about what his foreign policy is going to look like, especially regarding Ukraine. The main concern is whether his plan would include any possible territorial concessions, specifically on Crimea.
Будь-яка згода на мир, нібито, за рахунок територіальних поступок України, зокрема щодо Криму, це надання індульгенції країні-агресору на знищення і української держави, і кримсько-татарського народу. Бо він це буде сприймати як слабкість, і його це тільки заохотить.
Rifat Chubarov believes that Ukraine's partners made a mistake in 2014, and some of them, he says, admitted it although years later.
І Оланд каже, що будемо чесними, для того, щоб зупинити російську агресію, треба максимально припинити всі можливості постачання енергоносіїв, в першу чергу нафти і газу з Росії, бо саме це є тим продуктом, завдяки якому Росія вбиває своїх сусідів, сказав Оланд. Але одразу ж потім посипалися питання, а чому ви це не говорили і саме головне, не робили, коли ви були президентом Франції?
In the interview with Fox News, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said he believes that Ukraine can take back Crimea through diplomatic means.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has gifted North Korea with over 70 species of zoo animals in what the Kremlin says is a sign of support, kindness and care. The animals were transported to Pyongyang Central Zoo on Wednesday and include a lion and 2 brown bears. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un recently sent some 10,000 troops to Russia's border with Ukraine, further strengthening ties between the two countries.
After some delay due to power games, the 3 largest political groups in the European Parliament gave the green light to the new von der Leyen College of Commissioners. At the end, the Socialists accepted the Italian right-winger Raffaele Fitto to become Executive Vice President, while the EPP renounced to demand the downfall of the Spanish Socialist Teresa Ribera. Both will get big economic portfolios. Also, Hungarian Oliver Varhelyi from the far-right Patriots group survived, but he lost some powers over women's health controversy. His portfolio could be limited. Now, the hard work lies ahead for the new commission, which faces many challenges.
I would say there are 2 kinds of challenges for the Commission. The first kind is the priorities of the Commission, implementation of the Green Deal, going forward on defense industry, also agriculture. The Commission promised a new strategy or a new vision for agriculture in the 100 days. Also the pre-enlargement reviews of all the policies, of all the EU policies. But the second kind of challenges are the external challenges, like the election of Donald Trump, the situation in Ukraine, and also what we saw recently, the migration situation and the political consequences of it. So the Commission will have to balance what it has in priorities, but also how these priorities could be modified or disrupted by the global context, the current situation.
These challenges will be addressed by vice presidents and commissioners. The former Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas will be the new High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, and Lithuanian Andrius Kubilius will be the Commissioner for Defense and Space. For issues that could come up, especially with the election of Donald Trump, the Slovakian Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, Maros Šefčovič, will be the one to take action. For migration issues, the Austrian Commissioner Magnus Brunel will be responsible. At the same time, the new EU Commission may need to address some of the problems of the European citizens, which have become political.
There will be 2 portfolios to watch. The first one on energy and housing and the political consequences of the housing crisis, and that will be the Danish Commissioner Jørgensen, and also the question of skills, meaning education, training and labor conditions, with the Romanian Executive Vice President of the Commission, Roxana Minzatu.
The official vote of the plenary is expected next week in Strasbourg, which would allow the new Commission to start working on the 1st of December. So far, no other surprises are expected.
Heavy snowfall caused by an unexpected onset of winter has led to traffic complications across Europe. In parts of Germany and France, the snow pushed drivers and public transport to their limits in some places. The German city of Solingen was particularly affected. Traffic is having difficulty navigating through the thick snow, as the winter road clearance service is not regularly active yet at night. Air traffic at the Cologne-Bonn airport was also disrupted as runways needed to be cleared. Passengers were told to expect more disruptions in the coming days if the wintry conditions persist.
A volcano on the southwestern Reykjanes Peninsula erupted again late on Wednesday night, the seventh such eruption in a year. Officials say the latest eruption is considerably smaller than the previous one in August and indicates that volcanic activity in the area has reached its peak. The repeated volcanic eruptions close to the town of Grindavik have damaged infrastructure and property and forced many residents to evacuate. Authorities say the town isn't threatened further by this latest eruption, but it remains mostly deserted following evacuation orders issued in December last year. Iceland's main international airport, Keflavik, said in a statement on its website that flights were unaffected and no critical infrastructure was at risk. But the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, one of Iceland's most popular tourist destinations, had shut down and evacuated its guests. Iceland lies on the fault line between the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates and is a hotspot for seismic activity. The volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula had been dormant for around 800 years before the geological system sprang back into life in 2021. Eruptions in the area have since been more and more frequent, with the latest volcanic activity being the 6th this year alone.